The air froze solid in an instant. 3,000 people held their breath in Beverly Hilton Ballroom. Sandra Bullock's smile faltered ever so slightly as she clutched her Lifetime Achievement Award, her knuckles turning white against the golden statue. Nobody saw it coming. Not the producers, not the network executives, and certainly not the millions watching live at home. The moment Amanda Stone grabbed the microphone, everything changed. Her words cut through the silence like shards of glass. In the third row, Keanu Reeves' jaw tightened. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair as Stone's verbal assault continued. Then, without warning, he stood up. The crowd gasped. In 30 years of the Golden Globes, nothing like this had ever happened. The past 18 months had been a roller coaster for Sandra Bullock. After losing her father John Bullock to a prolonged illness, she'd stepped away from the spotlight to focus on her family and 2 adopted children. Hollywood whispered about her absence, but those who knew her understood the depth of her grief. John had been her rock, her constant champion since her early days as a struggling actress in New York. During her time away, Sandra poured herself into a passion project, a small independent film about a former Olympic athlete who coaches underprivileged kids in rural Montana. The project, titled Second Chances, had been a therapeutic escape, allowing her to process her loss while creating something meaningful. The film's success surprised everyone except those who knew Sandra's dedication to her craft. It earned critical acclaim and became an unexpected box office hit, grossing over $200 million worldwide. Amanda Stone's rise in Hollywood had followed a different trajectory. The former reality TV star had clawed her way into A-list circles through controversy and calculated public appearances. Her social media presence thrived on conflict, and her recent autobiography had sparked outrage with its unverified claims about fellow celebrities. Stone had particularly targeted Sandra, criticizing everything from her adoption choices to her acting abilities in a series of increasingly hostile interviews. The tension between them first surfaced at the Vanity Fair Oscar party 6 months ago. Witnesses described a brief but heated exchange when Stone attempted to provoke Sandra by making comments about her father's passing. Sandra had maintained her composure, simply walking away while Stone shouted after her. The incident made headlines for days, though Sandra never publicly addressed it. Keanu Reeves and Sandra's friendship had remained a constant through all the turmoil. Their bond, forged during the filming of Speed in 1994, had weathered 3 decades of Hollywood's ups and downs. When Sandra's father passed away, Keanu was among the first to arrive at her home, bringing comfort food and sitting with her in silence for hours. Their genuine connection stood out in an industry known for its superficial relationships. The decision to honor Sandra with the Lifetime Achievement Award had been unanimous among the Hollywood Foreign Press Association members. Her career spanned 4 decades, including an Oscar win for The Blind Side and countless beloved performances in films like Miss Congeniality, Gravity, and The Proposal. More importantly, she had earned a reputation for mentoring young actors and supporting various children's charities without seeking publicity. The week before the Golden Globes, industry insiders noticed Stone's increasingly erratic behavior on social media. Her posts grew more aggressive, particularly toward Sandra. She demanded a speaking role at the ceremony, claiming she had truth bombs to drop about Hollywood's beloved actress. The show's producers initially refused but relented when Stone threatened to create a scene regardless. They scheduled her as a presenter for a technical award, hoping to minimize any potential drama. The atmosphere at the Beverly Hilton that evening had been electric with anticipation. Sandra arrived early, elegant in a classic black Alexander McQueen gown, her children's artwork transformed into delicate jewelry pieces, a touching tribute to her family-first philosophy. Keanu, scheduled to present her award, sat strategically placed in the third row, his usual understated presence carrying an unusual tension. As the evening progressed, the cameras caught Stone pacing near the backstage area, clutching her phone and furiously typing between ceremonies. The show's director had instructed the camera operators to minimize shots of her, concerned about her apparent agitation. What no one knew then was that Stone had been posting a series of inflammatory tweets about Sandra, building up to what she planned as her moment of vindication. The stage was set for a collision between Hollywood's most genuine star and its most notorious provocateur. In the moments before Stone grabbed the microphone, Sandra had been smiling warmly at the tribute video showcasing her career highlights. The contrast between her graceful presence and the impending chaos would soon become a defining moment in awards show history. The tribute video faded to black, and warm applause filled the ballroom. Sandra rose gracefully, smoothing her gown as she prepared to accept her award. The regular proceedings called for Tom Hanks to present the achievement statue, followed by Sandra's acceptance speech. Instead, Amanda Stone's stilettos clicked against the hardwood stage as she intercepted the path to the microphone. The production director's voice crackled through the crew's headsets, demanding to know why Stone was approaching the podium. Security personnel stationed at the stage edges shifted uncertainly, but Stone had already seized control of the moment. The house lights remained dim, a single spotlight illuminating her determined stride. Stone adjusted the microphone with practiced precision, her red lips curving into what might have passed for a smile if not for the cold calculation in her eyes. The silence in the room deepened as she began speaking, her voice carrying an artificial sweetness that sent chills through the audience. Her opening words seemed innocent enough, congratulating Sandra on her achievement. But within seconds, her tone shifted dramatically. Stone launched into a calculated character assassination, questioning the authenticity of Sandra's entire career. She referenced supposed insider information about Sandra's early days in Hollywood, implying that her success stemmed from manipulation rather than talent. The audience watched in horror as Stone continued her verbal assault. She twisted Sandra's charitable work into something sinister, suggesting that her adoptions were publicity stunts rather than acts of love. Each accusation grew more outrageous than the last, yet Stone delivered them with an eerie calm that made them seem almost believable to those who didn't know better. Sandra maintained her composure, though those closest to her could see her hands trembling slightly. The camera caught her subtle shift in posture, shoulders back, chin slightly raised, the same stance she'd taken when facing difficult moments throughout her career. Meryl Streep, seated beside her, reached over to squeeze her hand in silent support. The room's temperature seemed to drop with each passing second. A-list celebrities who had spent decades perfecting their camera-ready expressions couldn't hide their shock. George Clooney's face darkened with barely contained anger. Julia Roberts shook her head in disbelief, while Leonardo DiCaprio signaled frantically to the show's producers. Stone, emboldened by the shocked silence, turned her attention to Sandra's recent loss. Her voice dripped with false sympathy as she suggested that John Bullock would be disappointed in what his daughter had become. The cruel words hung in the air like poison, and several audience members audibly gasped. The producers finally cut Stone's microphone, but she raised her voice to compensate. Security began moving toward the stage, yet Stone showed no signs of stopping. She pulled out her phone, threatening to share damaging photos she claimed would expose the real Sandra Bullock. Throughout the tirade, Sandra remained seated, her face a masterclass in dignity under fire. Her eyes never left Stone, not in challenge or anger, but with a kind of sad understanding that seemed to say more about Stone's character than her own. The cameras captured this contrast perfectly, Stone's increasing agitation against Sandra's steady grace. In the third row, Keanu Reeves had been growing increasingly still, a stillness that those who knew him recognized as dangerous. His usual laid-back demeanor had vanished, replaced by an intensity that drew the attention of nearby cameras. His jaw worked silently as Stone's accusations grew more personal, his hands gripping his seat's armrests with white-knuckled tension. The confrontation had lasted barely 3 minutes, but it felt like hours to everyone in attendance. The show's director was frantically trying to salvage the situation, calling for commercial breaks that the network executives were too stunned to approve. The television audience at home watched in real time as one of Hollywood's most prestigious ceremonies devolved into chaos. Just as security finally reached the stage steps, Stone played her final card. She turned directly to Sandra and began revealing details about private conversations with John Bullock during his last days. Conversations that had never happened. This fabrication proved to be the breaking point. The sound of a chair scraping against the floor cut through Stone's voice, and all eyes turned to see Keanu Reeves rising to his feet. The sound of Keanu Reeves rising from his seat rippled through the Beverly Hilton ballroom. He moved with the same focused intensity he brought to his most memorable roles, but this wasn't acting. Every head turned to follow his progress as he made his way toward the stage. Security personnel stepped aside, recognizing something in his demeanor that commanded respect. Amanda Stone's voice faltered for the first time that evening as Keanu approached. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence, measured and deliberate. He wore his signature black suit, but gone was his usual casual demeanor. The cameras caught every detail of his transformation from laid-back observer to protective friend. He didn't immediately reach for the microphone when he reached the podium. Instead, he stood quietly for a moment, his presence alone commanding attention. The contrast between his controlled composure and Stone's frenzied energy was striking. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of 3 decades of friendship. "I rarely speak at these events," he began, his words measured and clear. "Those who know me understand I prefer to stay in the background. But tonight, I can't remain silent." His eyes found Sandra in the audience, conveying volumes in that single glance before turning back to address the room. Keanu shared the story of meeting Sandra for the first time on the set of Speed. He painted a picture of a young actress who brought coffee to the crew at 5 a.m., who insisted on doing her own stunts not for glory but to make the film better, who spent her lunch breaks helping extras rehearse their lines. The authenticity in his voice transformed these simple anecdotes into powerful testimonials. He spoke about witnessing Sandra's evolution from talented actress to humanitarian without ever losing her genuine spirit. His words carried the audience through decades of friendship, punctuated with small, telling details that only a true friend would know. Sandra's habit of stress baking for the entire cast during difficult shoots, her anonymous donations to injured stunt performers, her regular visits to children's hospitals with no cameras present. The room grew still as Keanu addressed Stone's accusations directly. "I was there," he said, his voice taking on an edge, "when Sandra received the call about her father's illness. I watched her finish filming her scene, knowing her heart was breaking, because she wouldn't let down her crew. That's who Sandra Bullock is." His testimony shifted to John Bullock, and the room held its breath. "John was proud of his daughter every single day," Keanu stated, his voice thick with emotion. He kept a scrapbook, not of Sandra's awards or magazine covers, but of letters from people whose lives she'd touched. "I know because he showed it to me the last time I visited him." Keanu turned to face Stone directly, his normally gentle demeanor hardening. "You never met John Bullock," he said quietly, but with absolute certainty. "Because if you had, you'd know it was impossible to spend time with him without hearing about the daughter he adored. The conversations you claim to have had exist only in your imagination." The power of his words lay not just in their content but in their rarity. Everyone present knew that Keanu Reeves didn't engage in public drama. His decision to speak out carried extra weight precisely because it was so unprecedented. As he continued, his defense of Sandra transformed into a larger commentary on the nature of genuine friendship and integrity in an industry often lacking both. He shared a final story, one that had never been made public. After Sandra's mother passed away in 2000, she had wanted to quit acting. She felt lost, questioning everything about her life and career. It was John Bullock who convinced her to continue, telling her that her mother had been proudest not of her success, but of how she used that success to help others. "Sandra honors her parents' legacy every day," Keanu concluded, his voice carrying to every corner of the silent room. "Not through awards or achievements, though she deserves every accolade she's received. She honors them through her choices, her kindness, and her unwavering commitment to lifting others up rather than tearing them down." He stepped back from the microphone, but wasn't finished. In a move that would be replayed countless times in the days to come, Keanu walked across the stage to where Sandra sat. He extended his hand to her, helping her to her feet. The gesture was both protective and respectful, acknowledging both her strength and her right to this moment. As Sandra rose, the audience began to stand as well, first in small pockets, then in waves, until the entire ballroom was on its feet. The standing ovation wasn't just for Sandra's career achievements anymore. It had become a statement against cruelty and a celebration of true friendship. Amanda Stone stood forgotten at the edge of the stage, her phone still clutched in her hand, her planned exposé rendered meaningless in the face of such genuine testimony. Security finally escorted her away, but few even noticed her departure. All eyes were on Sandra and Keanu as they made their way to the podium together, a friendship of 30 years proving stronger than any attempt to tarnish it. The standing ovation continued for a full 3 minutes, an eternity in live television. Tears flowed freely throughout the ballroom as Sandra finally reached the microphone, Keanu standing supportively at her side. The show's producers had long since abandoned their planned schedule, recognizing that they were witnessing a moment that transcended their carefully crafted program. Social media exploded in real time. The hashtag #KeanuDefendSandra rocketed to the top trending spot worldwide within minutes. Clips of his speech began circulating before he'd even finished delivering it. Celebrity reaction shots spread across platforms, capturing everything from Nicole Kidman's tears to Morgan Freeman's approving nod as Keanu spoke about integrity in the industry. In the production booth, directors and network executives huddled around monitors, watching their ratings surge to unprecedented levels. The scheduled commercial break came and went, but no one dared cut away from the unfolding scene. Even competing networks began interrupting their programming to carry the feed, understanding they were witnessing a pivotal moment in entertainment history. Sandra's composure, which had held firm throughout Stone's attack, finally cracked as she looked out at her standing colleagues. Her voice wavered slightly as she began to speak, thanking Keanu not just for tonight, but for 30 years of unwavering friendship. The raw honesty in her words transformed what could have been just another awards show speech into something profoundly moving. Backstage, Amanda Stone's publicist was already drafting a resignation letter. Stone herself had been escorted to a private room, where security confiscated her phone after she attempted to post more allegations. Her handful of industry supporters quickly began distancing themselves, with several taking to social media to express their disappointment in her actions. The atmosphere in the ballroom had transformed completely. What began as a typical award ceremony had become a celebration of authenticity and loyalty. Celebrities who normally maintained careful public personas were openly embracing, sharing stories of their own experiences with both Sandra's kindness and Keanu's quiet generosity. Television commentators scrambled to fill airtime, bringing in body language experts and industry insiders to analyze what they just witnessed. But for once, no analysis was needed. The genuine emotion displayed on stage had cut through the usual Hollywood artifice, resonating with viewers in a way that needed no explanation. The show's host, recognizing the significance of the moment, abandoned the scripted transition that was supposed to follow the Lifetime Achievement presentation. Instead, they simply thanked both Sandra and Keanu for reminding us all what real friendship looks like. The ceremony would eventually resume its scheduled program, but everyone knew the real show had already reached its pinnacle. As Sandra and Keanu made their way backstage, they were surrounded not by the usual press corps but by fellow actors and industry veterans offering support and sharing their own stories of dealing with public attacks. The green room, typically a place of nervous energy and careful networking, became a sanctuary of genuine conversation about the challenges and rewards of maintaining authenticity in an often artificial industry. The morning after the Golden Globes brought a wave of reflection across Hollywood. Major news networks ran the footage of Keanu's intervention on continuous loop, with entertainment analysts noting how this unscripted moment had resonated more deeply than any planned awards show segment in recent memory. The story had transcended entertainment news, making headlines in mainstream media outlets worldwide. Sandra's first public appearance came during an impromptu press gathering outside her production office. Dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, she addressed the previous night's events with characteristic grace. She spoke about the importance of truth in an era of viral moments and the power of long-standing friendships in an industry known for its temporary alliances. When asked about Amanda Stone, Sandra simply wished her peace and healing, turning what could have been a moment for justified anger into a lesson about compassion. The professional fallout for Stone was swift and comprehensive. 3 upcoming film projects dropped her within 24 hours of the incident. Her talent agency quietly removed her name from their roster, and several brands suspended their endorsement deals. Stone's attempt at a social media apology, posted late that evening, was met with widespread skepticism, particularly after video evidence emerged contradicting her claims about knowing John Bullock. Keanu, true to form, avoided the media circus that followed. He was photographed the next morning at his usual motorcycle repair shop, politely declining to elaborate on his speech. However, his actions had sparked a broader conversation about standing up against bullying in the entertainment industry. Several veteran actors came forward with their own stories of witnessing or experiencing similar attacks, turning one moment of defense into a movement for change. The incident catalyzed several concrete changes in awards show protocol. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association announced new guidelines for presenter selections and stricter enforcement of speech content guidelines. Other major awards shows quickly followed suit, implementing similar protective measures against potential abuse of their platforms. Sandra and Keanu's friendship took on an almost legendary status in Hollywood circles. Industry newcomers shared stories of Sandra taking time to mentor them, carrying forward the spirit of support that Keanu had so eloquently described. Their 30-year bond became a blueprint for authentic relationships in an industry often criticized for its superficiality. A week after the ceremony, Sandra hosted a private dinner at her home, inviting many of those who had shown support during the incident. Keanu arrived early, helping her in the kitchen just as he had countless times before. The gathering became an informal support group for industry professionals discussing ways to maintain authenticity in their public lives while protecting their private ones. The entertainment press began investigating Stone's history of controversial statements, uncovering a pattern of fabricated stories and manufactured conflicts. Several celebrities she had previously targeted came forward with their own experiences, transforming what could have been a single night's drama into a larger conversation about accountability in the age of instant media. Perhaps the most significant impact came in the form of a cultural shift within Hollywood itself. The incident became a reference point for discussions about the responsibility that came with platform and influence. Younger celebrities, in particular, noted how Keanu's measured response had been more powerful than any angry outburst could have been. Sandra's Lifetime Achievement Award found a permanent home not in her personal trophy case, but in her father's old study, alongside his collection of letters from people whose lives she had touched. The placement served as a quiet reminder that true achievement lay not in accolades, but in the lives one influenced for the better. The film industry's calendar year includes countless ceremonies and celebrations, but the night Keanu Reeves stood up for Sandra Bullock became known simply as the night Hollywood stood still. It marked a moment when genuine friendship triumphed over manufactured drama, when truth prevailed over sensationalism, and when Hollywood's often cynical facade cracked to reveal something more authentic underneath. 1 year after the Golden Globes incident, the entertainment industry had undergone subtle but significant changes. Morning shows no longer booked guests known for manufacturing controversy. Award show producers instituted kindness protocols, ensuring their stages wouldn't become platforms for personal attacks. The term "pulling a stone" entered industry vocabulary, referring to attempts at gaining publicity through cruel means. Amanda Stone's attempted comeback failed to materialize. Her tell-all book deal fell through after publishers required fact-checking of her claims. She eventually left Los Angeles, returning to her hometown in Michigan where she opened a small public relations firm. In a rare moment of self-reflection during a local newspaper interview, she admitted that her actions that night had taught her hard lessons about the true meaning of success. Sandra Bullock's career flourished in unexpected ways. Her independent film, Second Chances, gained renewed attention, with critics noting how its themes of redemption and authentic connection reflected the real-life drama that had unfolded at the Golden Globes. She launched a production company focused on telling stories about genuine human connections, naming Keanu Reeves as her first creative partner. Keanu's impromptu speech became required viewing in entertainment industry training programs. Not for its dramatic content, but for its demonstration of quiet strength and loyal friendship. Acting schools incorporated it into their curriculum as an example of genuine emotion trumping manufactured drama. The friendship between Sandra and Keanu grew stronger through the experience. They were occasionally spotted having their traditional Sunday brunches at small Los Angeles diners, sharing quiet conversations over coffee and pancakes. These moments, captured by passers-by and shared on social media, became symbols of enduring friendship in an industry known for its temporary alliances. On the first anniversary of that memorable night, Sandra posted her only public statement about the incident on social media. It was a simple photo of 2 coffee cups on her father's old desk, next to her Lifetime Achievement Award. The caption read, "Real friendship doesn't need a spotlight. Thank you, Keanu, for 30 years of quiet moments that meant more than any loud ones." The post received millions of likes, but it was the response that mattered most. Keanu, who rarely used social media, replied with his own photo, a worn-out VHS tape of Speed, with a handwritten note from Sandra from 1994. "Thanks for catching me when I jumped. I know you always will." In an industry built on carefully crafted images and strategic publicity, their genuine bond remained a reminder that some things couldn't be scripted or staged. The night Hollywood stood still became more than just an awards show moment. It evolved into a touchstone for authenticity in an often artificial world, proof that real friendships could withstand any attempt to tarnish them, and a reminder that sometimes the most powerful statements are made by simply standing up for those we care about.